Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. Getting a little bit of a late start today because, well, it's been kind of a late. What's going on, everybody? It's Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. I like to hear myself, but not that much. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of a late start because we had a really, really intense, fun, action-packed, joyous, magical weekend here in the Hill Country, where a lot of the members of Chatlandia showed up and decided to go from the virtual to the real. And I'll be talking a little bit about that today. Also, some of the subject matter that is kind of in the headline today. But before I jump into everything, I have a couple of guests here that want to do a little bit of a cameo appearance. Come on in, guys. So if you ever wanted to see what the Crimmies look like,
because you've never seen us. It's true.
Here they are. There's Steve and Chris, looking just as good in real life as they do on computer. There's Joan, there's Earl, there's Isla, Paulette, 10 Dragon. So did you guys have a good time?
We had an unbelievable time. It was, we had high expectations and they were far, far, far exceeded.
Yeah, we were just absolutely smothered with love. It was a big love fest.
Yeah.
And it was like Steve was saying, it's like we got like 35 or 40 instant new friends. You know, it just
Speaking of new friends,
including
let's count 41 and 42, Jasper and Rosie.
Even Jasper has exceeded our expectations.
Yes.
So look at the whiskers. Jasper, you're a bit much, man. Whiskers are my whiskers are kind of out of control too today. Now that I'm checking it out. Any highlights from for the trip for you guys?
Just a general highlight. I think what really was really just the love, and just like a real love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like maybe like the Greek word agape.
Yeah,
is like the best description of it. I think it was just our hearts are just blown wide open. I think just hanging and seeing everybody. Just it was like instant family. And as Chris was saying, we think it was an epochal event.
Yes. It felt like it was a very potent nodal point in some kind of a turn in a good direction.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't know. It was, somebody said it was just like larger than the sum of its parts. I don't know if there are enough superlatives to really capture what happened. We did not anticipate that effulgent a reaction of how we would interact with people. It was like everybody was just in love with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It was like some kind of a spell was cast over us that we just all fell in love.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And everybody was the star.
Yeah.
You know, everybody was a shining star.
Yeah, I really like that you asked people to come up and speak a little personal thing about themselves on the show.
Yeah.
You know, I think that helps us all to connect with one another, and it gives a face to a handle. Like, oh, who's Cheeky Monkey? You know, that doesn't even tell me who you are, right? Mm-hmm. So you got Cheeky Monkey, and you got Anito, and you got Michael, and all these wonderful people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of them is just a gem.
Yeah.
It's like bright and shining stars.
Yeah.
So it was just, it fed us. It filled us up.
Well, that was the plan. That was the blueprint, and it seemed like it worked. It seemed like it worked really, really well. So
and big time kudos to Robert, because he structured it so well. The balance of time, you know, with events and versus, time to hang out with each other. I think we realized that was really important. So the balance of the whole thing was really, really perfect. So we really, really thank you for all the work. I mean, you and Joan put in an immense amount of work to pull this thing off.
Well, we know these things are not simple. They're complex, and your flexibility was the reason why it was able to go so well. Because if you were able to just kind of switch gears if something needed an adjustment, you just did it. It just wasn't like a big deal. You just did it.
Right. Yeah.
And made it flow, kept the flow going. The flow never got interrupted.
Yeah. that was the idea, just to
Yeah.
get into a flow and
3 solid days. It
And
was
the-
just,
let everything unfold. So
and the venue was really sweet. I really liked the hotel. It had a really sweet quality to it. It wasn't slick and modern and steel and chrome. It was stone and curvy lines and
yeah,
beautiful swimming pool, and the courtyard was so beautiful with the bougainvillea.
hmm
Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole thing was just added up to a really, really spectacular event.
So it looks like Judy made it back to Missouri already.
Oh, good.
Right.
She's
good.
there, and Jennifer says hi.
Hi, Jennifer.
And of course, there's Joni. Yes, she's in there saying good morning. There's Shari. Shari says
Shari.
hello.
Sorry, Alex.
We'll
Hi,
see
Shari.
you. We'll see you soon.
So there has been a kind of a groundswell of doing it again, and we're gonna marinate on that and see what that looks like and when that could happen. And but it was such a successful experience that I'd like to continue to repeat this and be able to build on it and create the community, the type of community that seems like we all need in our lives, and have a kind of a placeholder for it. And I know that a lot of you will stay in touch with each other, and that'll be a really cool thing too.
Yeah, yeah. And now that you know that you'd like to do it again, you have a whole year to save the pennies.
That's right.
And
Right.
yeah, I mean, yeah, if you missed it, just please do what you can, because it just filled us in so many ways.
Yeah.
That we're just not getting filled. Our lives. And
Maybe it was a taste of things to come.
well, we hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how it can be.
Yeah, and everybody was just so cooperative and very helpful and willing to pitch in, and it was great. It was really a brief kind of snippet community, which is I think what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, real community.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Jasper says yeah.
This is
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Jasper's the real deal.
So I'm gonna send the Crimmies off. They're gonna.
We're
You have
we're
a
off.
plane to catch?
Yeah, we got a plane to catch. So, Robert, thank you so much for hosting this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Big pat on the back. for
You're welcome.
Robert.
You're welcome.
Maybe
And
even a back rub. That might be
I
more
could use it.
welcome.
I could use
Yeah.
about 24 hours of that.
Good.
So listen, you guys travel safe, okay?
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
And
I'll do that.
great seeing you.
Yeah, thank you, Robert.
Great seeing you, and we'll see you again, right?
You are loved.
Yep. So
Kiss, kiss.
I got one. How about that
Jasper
one?
wanted one.
Oh, okay.
Action.
Jasper.
Aren't you all envious that Jasper kissed me?
Look at Jasper.
Aw, he's a love bug.
And Rosie's great too.
Rosie's adorable.
Jasper's a camera whore. That's what I
Rosie
think.
just gazes into your eyes lovingly. She's so sweet.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
everybody.
Take good care.
Yeah,
Okay.
Really
Thank you,
good.
Rob.
Say bye to the Crimmies.
Ta-ta. See you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side.
Okay, bye, Jasper. You be good.
Chris Crimmy looks 10 years younger under your studio
I know.
lighting.
You know what? Can I stay here? Holy smokes. Wow. All right. Thanks, Robert.
See you guys.
Good show.
Thanks.
We'll probably be able to listen in the car.
Hey, with the tail. All right, let's lock in here. Continue. Oh, man. Let's see. Let's press key immediately to the right of the shift key. Shift. Right, shift. Z. Okay, hold down for, press the key once only. Hold down for a long time. My keyboard's getting identified. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me all right? I'm just trying to play with the audio a little bit here. Let me go into my settings. The moon is squaring my natal Saturn. Not fun. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I'm with you. I am with you. Line in. Let's see. Internal microphone. How about line in audio port? How about that? No, there's nothing there. Nothing there. I guess we're back to the internal microphone, which is not what I have this on for. What's going on, Uncle Glenn? Audio, yes. Okay, so this is just going to kind of look good, I suppose. Here comes Rosie. Hey, so what's happening? Yeah, let's give a rundown of just a quick rundown of the weekend. A lot of interesting tales to tell. You never know how it's going to go when you set up an event like this, and who shows up and how they're going to show up and when they're going to show up. It's all a journey, and some people couldn't make it. There was a cancellation last minute. Somebody got into an accident. There were issues with travel, issues with trucks, but this is to be expected because these things happen. So but it went incredibly well, really, really well. And we had my buddy Stephen Kent playing on Saturday night, and he was absolutely magical. He was terrific. And it was incredible how quickly everybody bonded. And by the time it was all over, it was, how do I say it? It was revelatory in a lot of ways. I think for me, my perfect moment for this entire event was we had these vans. We had a caravan of about 3 vans and maybe 4 cars. So there's 7 vehicles in total. And our plan was to go to Enchanted Rock on Sunday and hang out there for a few hours and let people get out in nature. And I didn't get the memo. Well, I guess I did get the memo from Adrian, who's a part of our group, but I didn't get the memo pre-Adrian about how they changed the rules for the parks here, especially in Fredericksburg. And you need to make reservations now for Enchanted Rock. And I've never had to do that. You just roll in and pay your money and go walk around. Well, that wasn't the case. So we got there, and I've got this big outing planned. And we get there, and theoretically we can't get in. So I'm at the kind of the head of the pack, and I'm talking with the park ranger. I didn't say very much, and the next thing I know, the park ranger is on his walkie-talkie. Somebody picks up, they're listening, and he asked them, "Do we have space?" And they said yes. And so the caravan gets led into Enchanted Rock, even though we don't have reservations. Now, of course, we had to pay for everything. That's not a big deal. But we had a plan B. We had a backup just in case. And it would have been a good plan B. But this was plan A. And this was kind of the magic that we were somehow generating. Like that, it was just like the combined energy of our collective magic just opened the door, and it opened the gate, and then we were in. So it's a very brief model. And when I travel to places like Findhorn and Sirius, which is a community in Massachusetts, and High Wind, I was part of a group experience, and I experienced some of this stuff before, where you get the right group of people together and the right intention and the right consciousness, and even if it's for a limited period of time, very interesting things happen. And this is part of the ongoing story that we have as individuals in a very large landmass, whether it's this country or the entire planet, and then we're disconnected on some level, whether it's physically or otherwise. And when we do get together, and we've all been sort of germinating on our own, in our own individual pots, and then we all get planted together, it becomes this incredible, beautiful, lush garden where all the other kind of life forms are interacting. It was really great, really great. And we'll do it again. We'll do it again next year, and maybe we'll do it here in Texas. We'll see. We'll see where I am, and we'll see where everybody else is at. But it's definitely going to be done again, and it'll just be location centric. And I'm sure people in the chat room will have a few bon mots and a few snippets to share with everybody. So it's back to reality. back to real life, back to reality, as they say. And there's a hell of a lot going on right now. And there's so much happening. I don't even know where to start. Do we start in California with these fires and the manhole covers being ejected into 50 feet in the air and flames coming through the manhole covers? Do we talk about the satellite imagery of some of these fires that are popping, just like little explosions? Do we talk about that? Do we talk about the deployment of Marines theoretically to the state of California? Do we talk about the state of Long Beach, the port of Long Beach, with Trump basically kicking the Chinese out? Where do we start? Why don't we start there? Maybe we'll work our way out, because there's some other. It seems like there's a lot of stuff going on with China, and I want to talk a little bit about LeBron James today as well, because LeBron James had something very interesting to say, and it might just be a career killer for LeBron James. Now, LeBron James is a Capricorn, and he's born on the same day as Tiger Woods. Isn't that interesting? I mean, they're these two guys, two young Capricorn. Tiger is not officially all black. Tiger's mother was Thai. I think she's still around, but isn't she? Father Earl was he was so-called black, African American guy. But Tiger called himself a Cablinasian, which was, and I believe one of Earl Woods' parents was Caucasian. So he called himself a Cablinasian because there was Caucasian in his family, black in his family, and Asian in his family. I don't know if Tiger still refers to himself, or the clone formerly known as Tiger refers to himself as Cablinasian. But that's how he referred to himself. But he and LeBron were born on the same day. LeBron doesn't know who his father was. And there's a lot of speculation LeBron James is kind of an MK Ultra athlete, and that there are a number of these young athletes that are raised and programmed, and just like how they programmed the gymnastics or the gymnasts, that there's some of that going on in some of the other sports. So we can talk about LeBron James as well. What's going on in the chat room? Power outages in California, people paid their bills, outrageous. Hey, Jenny, nice to see you. Used to go camping in Findhorn, a special vibe in the area. I'd agree, Ian. Findhorn is incredibly magical. You could feel the vibes through the screen almost on Friday. That was a fun show, wasn't it? Hey, Luann, nice to see you. Mercury's definitely in its shadow now. It is definitely in its shadow, for sure. Let's see. Oh, Judy sent the creamy kisses. Creamy kisses. So yeah, why don't we start in California? I don't have a lot of visuals today, so it's just going to be me kind of like riffing, which is, I guess, not a bad thing sometimes, although it does get me in trouble. So California is California's on fire, literally, figuratively. It's on fire. Yeah, the rolling blackouts are still happening. PG&E is bankrupt. They are out of money because of a number of different things that have been happening with them, lawsuits, mismanagement of their resources. Now, what's interesting is that PG&E is a Rothschild-owned subsidiary. So the question is, why is PG&E, or why did the Rothschilds allow PG&E to get bankrupted? And the question might be is that they are looking to either get a bailout, get some more state money. California has to infuse Rothschilds, PG&E with money. Then the state of, and then the United States would then infuse California, theoretically. I mean, there could be a chain of events here, but it really feels like there's this almost open movement of cessation that's happening with California present. And, I don't know what to say about Dave Hodges. Sometimes I think he's okay, and sometimes I think, who is this guy, and do I really trust him? And but he's been talking about a lot of the California stuff, and again, he's claiming that there are the United States Marine Corps that are now being deployed to California. So the original hypothesis here is that the United States sunk a sub off the coast of sort of deep reaches of the North American continent, somewhere between Alaska and the Bering Strait, but probably more towards the Alaskan side of things. And there was a Russian submarine that was there, and they were looking for some kind of artifacts. There's a lot going on under the ocean right now, and probably more than people realize, just in terms of historical precedent, ancient civilizations, things like that. So apparently there was a Russian sub that was down there. Now there's also a theory that they were going to do some cable cutting and cut off cable access, because one of the things that they have these massive cables that run from continent to continent, and carries communications and carries digital information and all that stuff. So there's a theory that maybe the Russians were down there doing that, or maybe they were down there getting something ancient and spectacular. Who knows what they were doing down there? But all of a sudden, their submarine suffered damage. And this is one of the most expensive submarines in the world, by the way. And why is it so expensive? Because it was a deep submersible, and it could descend to depths that other submarines could not descend to. I think it's like one of two in the world that had that kind of capability. Anyway, they suffered about 14 or 15 losses of life. And then not long after that, China Lake had a quote unquote massive earthquake. And we saw two of those. And we do know it is a fact that China Lake had an underground base in which they were storing all kinds of very interesting materials, including nuclear matter. And the rad meters were going off the charts with China Lake after that happened. So there's this theory that the China Lake event was a payback by the Russians. Now, Trump supposedly wanted to get Greenland because we lost a deep underground military base. This, again, I'm just telling you things that I've kludged. And that was one of the reasons why he made this kind of outrageous comment, well, why don't we buy Greenland? Because something significant happened. Now, what happened with China Lake is still continuing to have its effect on the rest of Southern California, and it's disrupted the mantle and the plates. So that's one of the, this is one scenario that is taking place. Now that scenario is independent of another scenario, which is going on with the port of Long Beach, which has long been run by the Chinese. So Trump decided that he was going to kick them out. And so they're no longer, or will no longer be running the port in Long Beach. Now that gets back into this whole story with Adam Schiff and using the port for trafficking. Now there's new information that Adam Schiff has been hanging out with that creep Ed Buck, who has been luring borderline people to his place. And 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10, they're black, so-called black dudes. He gets them up to his place and gets them high on meth and all this other shit. He's got all these sex toys and wants to, be butt plugged or whatever his thing is. So he recently got arrested because yet another dude went to his place and got all fucked up and complained that he was doing weird shit. Right. So this is what happened with Ed Buck. Now, apparently there's a record of, I don't know how they get these records. Do they have a clicker at Ed Buck's door? Apparently, Adam Schiff has been to Ed Buck 17 times. Now, Ed Buck is a major donor for the Democratic Party, so maybe Adam Schiff is just doing business, but what kind of business really is Adam Schiff doing? So there's this really interesting focus now on Adam Schiff, who I believe is probably connected to Jacob Schiff and the Schiff family. And Jacob Schiff, if you're not familiar with Jacob Schiff, is somebody who was the bankroller of the Bolshevik Revolution. So he was the bank. He was the bank of the Bolsheviks, and that was all very Rothschild-esque. And we have the Rothschilds again coming up in California, because Jacob Schiff was the money man for the Rothschilds. And now we have, again, in California with PG&E, and we have another Schiff, Adam Schiff. So it's really interesting in terms of the timeline stuff. And it really does feel like we're in the midst of another Bolshevik revolution. I don't know if you guys caught what happened over the weekend. I think it was Saturday or Friday or Saturday, might have been Friday. up in Minneapolis, where Trump had his Make America Great Again rally. And there were a lot of people who were not as fond of Donald Trump as his core base, and they were protesting rather loudly, snatching hats off people, burning them. And apparently Ilhan Omar and her boyfriend were there. They were caught on surveillance cams, which I thought was pretty interesting. So we're in the midst of, again, a soft getting less soft with it each day Bolshevik push. That there is and it's interesting because the names of the players during that time are coming up again. Schiff, Rothschild, New York. It was in New York then. That's where everything was being run out of, but now it's in California, so it's gone to the other side of the country. And it feels to me like, even though the Russians may be playing a role here, that it's actually the Chinese this time who are playing the role of the insurrectionist force. And that's just one party that's involved in a major kind of shitstorm where everybody is waking up in a very interesting kind of way. And these moments of awakening are happening more and more and more. This Ellen moment was again, there was a football game on not this last Sunday, but the Sunday before last in Dallas, and Ellen DeGenerate was in the booth, in Jerry Jones's booth, with G.W. Bush looking like an infantile 5 or 6 year old. And she was there and sitting next to him, and she had her iPhone, whatever she was doing. And people really came out against Ellen, like, what are you doing? Why are you in that box? And she used it as this opportunity to basically say, hey, we become too ingrained and entrained by who we hang out with, and what kind of perception or what kind of feedback we're going to get when we're hanging out with people that really aren't theoretically our people. And she made a big deal out of it on her show. She's an Aquarian. She's trying to get this Aquarian point of view across. And somebody took her monologue. It's 1:28, and they posted a video with these images of Abu Ghraib and everything that happened, or not everything, but the kind of the most stark imagery of the war in Iraq. And Ellen's people have been trying to get this video off of YouTube, and they can't, because what they did is they created a new video. It wasn't like they were just grabbing the video, and so it was like creating a remix. It's a different piece of work. So Ellen's people have been trying intensely trying to get this thing off of YouTube, and it's not working. And so what's happening now is we're having more and more people wake up. This is just one kind of event. Now, I'm going to shift to LeBron James for a moment, because LeBron James and the NBA have been in hot water because Daryl Morey, who is the general manager of the Houston Rockets and a very smart guy, came out and supported the protests in Hong Kong, which I thought was interesting for whatever reason he did it. But it was a very innocuous tweet. I stand with Hong Kong. I support freedom and democracy. Bang. China didn't like it, and China started playing the heavy, started really getting down on the NBA, Daryl Morey. It was kind of a big deal. In fact, China started to drop contracts with the NBA. And then you had the woke coaches of the NBA, like Steve Kerr, who's the son of Malcolm Kerr. Malcolm Kerr was killed in Beirut, and I've gone over this before. Kay Griggs talks about Malcolm Kerr and how he was basically killed by forces inside of our own government. Maybe this is why Steve Kerr has such a terrible time with our government in general. That it has something to do with. Oh, I see what we're doing here. Plugged in the wrong key. How about that? Plugged in the wrong. I got to plug this in. See what happens now. Ooh, how's that? Do we sound a little bit closer now? Do we sound a little closer? There we go. Anyway, so maybe that's why Steve Kerr hates the government, because he knows somewhere that that it was the government that killed his father, or forces inside the government, or rogue forces, because that's really what seems like it's happening now. It feels like there's a lot of bifurcation taking place, that there's factions within factions. Like you've got infighting with the CIA, you got infighting with the FBI, you know, these different rogue groups. It's even in government. So we're seeing this fractal alignment, I guess you would call it. A fractal alignment inside of society, that there are pockets, and we can even see it in our own lives, within your own family, that there are fractal pockets inside of your family, that you could think a certain way or believe a certain thing, and then everybody else is sort of out on an island somewhere. And even inside of a family experience, things can get really, really, really dicey and really sketchy. And this is one of the things that was, I think, remarkable when we all got together, because we were no longer fractal. You know, we were one cohesive whole. And and I think this is the model. You know, I've been talking about this for a long time, and we were able to see the model in action. You know, because I've been talking about the dark Aquarian age. If you go back to some of the shows I did on Gaia, that was one of my themes. It's like, this is where we're headed. It is the dark version of the Aquarian age, and it is a technocratic society, techno-feudal society, where everybody's under 24/7 surveillance, and we have a lot of little gizmos and gadgets and toys to amuse ourselves. But not a lot of freedom, very little freedom of choice. So this was kind of an interesting opportunity to experience something outside of that, where everybody is equal, and everybody is vital, and everybody is sovereign, and everybody is pulling together simultaneously. So to me, this is what that was about. This last weekend was about. It was about that kind of model in action. And we're at a point now where everything is just so fractalized that people cannot have a similar intent. People cannot have a similar, chordal response, or a chordal strum, where we're all sounding the same notes. And again, the idea here is that everybody's been working on themselves, doing their thing by themselves, on their own, mostly out of necessity in many ways. But there will be a time where you will not be alone, that you will either be forced together, or it will be a voluntary, sympathetic response to what's happening externally. And you will find yourself with like-minded people, like-hearted people. This day is coming. And that's what this weekend showed me, that this day is coming. And when that comes, the power of that group is absolutely tremendous. And we have no idea just how tremendous it can, and I think will be. Okay, so we're talking about fractalization. There's a lot of that going on right now. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it inside of all these different units, with whether it's CIA, or the FBI, the NSA, even our own government, our own families. And even in sports, we're seeing it. And this brings us back to LeBron. And LeBron came out and said that Daryl Morey doesn't know history and he's misinformed. And that's really not the way it is in China. LeBron has almost single-handedly killed his career in one tweet. It's a tweet. And LeBron has a lot of fanboys. Everybody loves LeBron, the king. They love LeBron. And I was on Twitter last night, and it is not good for LeBron. I was reading responses to his stuff. It's not good. Not good. LeBron crossed the line. And people are awake enough, even on the woke side, they're awake enough to see that LeBron is wrong, and that there are puppet strings that are tied up here. And he's basically doing what Nike is telling him to do, and say what Nike is basically telling him to say. Very weird, very awkward moment. Very weird, very awkward. And LeBron will continue to play in the NBA and all that shit. but his social credibility, his cachet is plummeting. It's plummeting. Ye shall know them, right? By their deeds, by their words, and by their works. That's what's happening right now. So it's a very interesting time to be witnessing all this. It's happening on so many levels. So many levels. We've got the China stuff going on. We've got the paramilitary stuff happening. We've got military stuff happening. We've got this open-handed, sort of bayonet conflict going on with the impeachment process. Now Rudy Giuliani's in hot shit. Trump, it now looks like Trump is like kicking Rudy Giuliani to the curb. I mean, this whole thing is like wild. You've got what's going on with Syria. That volume's getting cranked up. Apparently Turkey's got a bunch of nukes and they're holding people hostage in the area. There's so much shit happening right now. You've got Ellen DeGeneres and George Bush and this weird clash of personality, ideology, culture. The internet is slamming. It is just slamming right now. You've got LeBron James. These iconic figures are starting to get pummeled. I mean, pummeled. And this gets us back into the story of the times that we're in and the reckoning, right? Where people have to deal with their shit. It's a big time, really big time. I was told I should be funnier, by the way. Do more voices. I'm too serious. I'm too political by one of our lovely attendees. I'll try to work on that. I'll try to be funnier to the best of my ability. Sometimes when you're getting into the flow of information, it's hard to be funny, but I'll program that. I'll hit that on the back end of my Neo-like matrix bot that's on the other side. Okay, let's see what we have going on. Omar claims she was in Morocco and offered a photo without her as proof. She was outed by surveillance camera. Now media is concerned Minnesota no longer welcomes Somalis. Oh, really? Really? So have you seen the Mall of America, the Somali Mall of America? The Somali Mall? Yes, Robert. The group is greater than some of its parts. Paul says, Judy, you looked happy and healthy in your Friday afternoon, 5 minutes of flame. Good 5 minutes. I thought Marion's story was so very interesting. Marion's a trip, man. Hey, Tim, what's going on? Nice to see you. Marion. I could do Marion asked me to do more impressions. Maybe I should do an impression of Marion. Marion, Robert. Marion had this, it's going to take me a while. Robert, Robert, she's got this accent, which is part German and part Southern. It's like, I've never heard anything like this before in my life. Never. And Marion was like a rock, man. And one of the things that was really great about this group is that they were singing. They were singing. Singing was a big part of this. Who would have thought? Singing. And it all started the night that we went to Fredericksburg and my friend Stephen Kent started playing Didgeridoo. And we're in this beautiful old church and people started singing Light My Fire and all kinds of stuff. It was great. We Are the Champions. And then Stephen had two stories about both those songs, that he actually recorded a record with John Densmore, who's the drummer of the Doors. They did a record together. And then one time, this was how the weekend was. And he said one time he was hitchhiking through England and he got picked up by Roger Taylor, who was the drummer, two drummers, the drummer of Queen. So here they are, they're singing Densmore and the Doors and Queen and We Are the Champions, and Stephen's got stories about it. This is kind of how it went all weekend. And Marion needs to have her own show, I think. That's what I think. All right. That's why I can't sing. Oh, Christine, you didn't have to sing. Not everybody was singing. There were people that were listening. Her voice was incredible, right? I know. Totally incredible. Totally incredible. Oh, no, hope to see you next time. And I know you had some challenges with the flooding and all that down there. But anybody who didn't get to come this time, you're welcome next time. So speaking of time, I'm almost out of it because I've got a client in about 20 minutes. So I need to prep for that. But we are in interesting times, very interesting times. And apparently this week, to just pull a name right out from the chat room, is a humdinger. And apparently the 19th is a really big day. Circle the calendar, the 19th. I'm actually going to Philadelphia. I'll be leaving for Philadelphia tomorrow. So I won't be doing the show tomorrow, but I'll be doing a forecast on Friday. And I'll also be doing probably a flame from Philadelphia on Thursday. So we're going to get back into the flame action, but I'll just be doing it from another part of the country. So all you folks in Philadelphia, I can't wait to see you. I'll be there, like I said, tomorrow night. Oh, Concord. There was a quake in Concord last night, apparently. So I got to blow a call into my mom. Another California thing. All right. Hey, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the game is on. The game is on. We are ready to rock and roll on many different levels. Many, many different levels. So keep your coordinates and your wits about you. Continue to do what you do. Stay close to source. Eat the right foods. Feed yourself the right things. And I've been told I need to slow this part down. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart to stay open to what's possible. And we got a good taste of that this last weekend. Have a great day. I will be traveling tomorrow. I'll be back on Thursday for 15 minutes. I'll be back on Friday for a Friday forecast, and I may be doing a live stream also from. I may just do the live stream probably from Solutions on Friday night. That'll probably be the Friday forecast, and that's going to be at I think 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You guys, I'll let you guys know. I'll put it out there in the various channels. It'll be good. I'll be talking about astrology specifically that night. Okay. All right. Take good care. And again, thank you for everybody that attended. Thank you for everybody that was watching the show and being with us in spirit. All right. Have a great day.